Right, so welcome back. Here's something I was going to say.
Okay, I'll show you that other thing just now.
Oh, he wants to show me his thing again. His other thing he's got too. Like I discussed with you previously, I had an idea, and this is a fan theory type thing.
Yeah.
Sauron and the orcs and so forth were never actually a threat. Never a great threat to Middle-earth. They were more a minor annoyance. But they were perceived as a great threat by the elves, the dwarves, and men, so that they could essentially consolidate their power base, consolidate their power, and in the case of people like Gondor and Rohan, expand their borders incredibly far. Even the dwarves could expand their underground keeps through the mountains and caves, which were the traditional homes of goblins and that. Essentially displace them by saying that they were the greatest threat to all life, when in reality Sauron was he wasn't Hitler, he was more one of those incompetent South American dictators that normally gets overthrown by his own stupidity and three American squadrons.
Technically, because Sauron did take over from
Morgoth, who was technically the more Hitler type character of the Lord of the Rings and the rest of it.
Yeah.
He was the source of evil. So he was the gone, therefore Sauron was the lesser dictator who took over, not as good, and the orcs and the goblins and that they were never a threat. They were more like a drunken rabble of football fans.
And if you really get it, it touches on it in the film, but you really get it in the books, that the various different orc tribes hate each other.
Yeah, the Uruk-hai in the extended.
The Uruk-hai aren't even a natural breed. They were created.
In the extendeds, they have a go at each other as well. They call it insulting as in a Morgul rat.
But it's not just the Uruk-hai versus the orcs. I mean, the orcs, you've got the Mordor orcs and the Gundabad orcs. And
you've got different clans and different tribes.
They are the same reason that Scotland never took over England, is they were too busy fighting each other.
Yes,
same
and the English did the same. The Normans had to put down the Saxons just to secure their conquest of England. So technically the English had to kill the English to stop the English from destroying England.
So, yeah, it could make sense to me that the orcs would be very difficult to unify the orcs into a contingent war band. And even then, there would be desertion in the ranks. There wouldn't be this overwhelming unified force.
Yes, the orcs are more like most of the... Yeah, in fact, we can go with this. If it offends you, good. But look at Africa, it's full of dictators.
Yeah.
And they have these cobbled together armies made of different tribes. Look at the horrific things that happen in Rwanda, the Rwanda genocide. This tribe of black people killing this other tribe. You have the dictator, you have a mess of soldiers. You've got young boys, you've got old men, you've got a real base of soldiers and things. And these guys, the orcs, they're a motley crew with Sauron as the leader, and he's a half-assed dictator.
He's basically trying to upset a little bit of charisma that says, hey, this is why you should hate the humans and elves.
He's a general that managed to see the hole in when the boss got wiped out. He stepped into the vacuum,
which is like a lot of these sort of dictatorships.
Yeah, and essentially what's been said by the big boys, Gondor, Rohan, the elves, the dwarves, who are, look at Gondor as the kingdom of men. They are practically the USA. They're the biggest, they're the strongest, they have the vastest armies of all men.
They have the most incompetent leadership.
But they have all these, until Aragorn takes over, but they have all this stuff. And they are under threat by this motley crew of half-wits led by this fuckwit dictator who went and lost his super weapon and then decided to start a war without actually finding the damn thing.
And most of his army wants to kill each other more than it wants to kill the enemy.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, his ring rates, his special elite troops are absolutely useless. They get killed by a woman. They get fought off by Aragorn. They have there's no threat to them. Okay, like North Korea, they will invade the South, and it will be a shock, a war when the North does it, and the South will reel for a week or so from that sudden attack.
And then they'll
regroup. once they regroup, and once Japan, America, and so forth step in, little fat boy in Pyongyang there is going to be taken outside and executed within a fortnight because we will have completely smashed his armies to bits.
Yeah.
He is no great threat. He's not a threat to the world. He's going to invade South Korea and he'll lose. Fact.
Yeah.
He's just an annoyance. But he's used as our big threat so we can all man up and put extra guns everywhere and sell more weapons.
Well, in the 60s it was the commies.
Yeah, well, he is a commie technically.
Well,
he's just a really
the
bad
white
one.
commies.
Yeah, the Ruskies. But who are now friends with Trump. But that theory, that we put that, as I said, for Lord of the Rings. That Sauron is not... He's a half-assed dictator with a half-wit army. He is not the be-all and end-all destroyer of the world. That is actually the greatest evil. He's just made to be that way via propaganda so that the elves, the dwarves and so forth can expand their own holds, expand their kingdoms. And in the case of the elves, they're going to go home, but they're going to leave Middle-earth in command under humans.
Yeah.
Humans, of course, who are pretty much loyal to the elves, especially Aragorn and them, because they're all Numenorians. They're, part elf. It's in their genetic that
I
they
was
share
actually just
blood.
going to say, they didn't even just give it to humans. They gave it to humans with elf in them.
Yeah. So
They
they
don't trust the real humans. We'll have the pseudo puppet humans.
But the real humans would be like Rohan.
Yeah.
And who's the king of Rohan? But who does his sister marry? Stewart of Gondor's kid. Old Denethor's son was Faramir, but marries Eowyn.
Yes.
So therefore, uniting Gondor and Rohan. So the half-breed, the mixed blood will rule at the top. The lizard people control this all routine.
The lizard people are elves.
So the elf, the Numenorian line will survive, especially considering Aragorn screws his own aunt, who is a bloody elf. So they will have
reinforce the elf.
Yeah, so they will have this half-breed ruling elite with this sort of bouillabaisse mix of human underneath a ruling class that serves them, and then the common man. But of course, man will have expanded their borders. They will have lands and territories because Sauron, the half-wit dictator, and all his minions will be gone, and therefore they expand their borders. Sauron is no threat. How many times? Mordor's there from what? When did he occupy Mordor? Back in the Second Age? Something like that. He had that place for 3,000 years. And then he started that war, and he lost. And then he came back 3,000 years later and started another war. 3,000 years! You're telling me 3,000 years the might of Gondor and Rohan couldn't actually go into Mordor and smack a few stupid orcs around?
They just didn't want to.
Yeah, how are they a threat? The orcs, every time the orcs have gone to war, they lose. I mean, how is that a threat? How do you...
They literally would have to expand out of Mordor straight into Gondor's main fortresses.
And
so
someone who's playing the Third Age campaign, I'm playing as Mordor. I told you last night, every single time I end turn, for those who've not, we'll have a full discussion on that, because it's an epic mod. It's the Medieval 2 video game, it's a mod for it. But every time I end turn, Mordor has made $100. We're 12,000 down. We've made 13 grand in total. 12,000 is expenditures, just trying to maintain the rabbles of orcs. And they're literally called orc rabble. I've got this bouillabaisse of mixed up orcs, spearmen and shit. And Gondor is 50% increase on finance and 50% military. They are literally top 4 or 5 of the main things every turn. They're maxing the top stuff all the time. And I am supposed to be the great enemy, the threat of Gondor. I can't even keep bloody Minas Morgul and any of those places manned properly.
I mean, if you look at it, it's like Gondor. The capital of Gondor is this huge 7-tiered city.
Yes.
And then there's all these smaller little fortress cities around it.
And they go all the way right back to the pointy bit at the bottom of Middle-earth there, because it goes along that mountain ridge. So Rohan's on the one side, and Gondor's territory technically goes right past Helm's Deep and all that. It just goes on the opposite side of the mountains. And there's the kingdom of, Armor, that side as well. Which is technically a Gondor subservient.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Mordor is a few shacks around a volcano.
And yet they're the great enemy. And it's even in the game. I've got a few shacks scattered around the volcanic land. I have no production for farming. I have crappy second-hand steel. I have a shitty third world nation. And Gondor, this mighty first world nation, is threatened by me. I feel like fucking, the Americans with their whole, we're invading Afghanistan because they threat America. No, a couple of idiots threaten America. Afghanistan, if they put all their armies together, couldn't even get to America. The US 6th Fleet has enough weapons to blow up half the Middle East twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yet some Muslim guy with a turban is a threat to America.
And even then, out of the entire Middle East, probably the one country that I consider to be the most dangerous out of them.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, is the one that everyone's friends with.
That's actually Boris Johnson made reference to that recently. But there's a whole thing in Yemen at the moment. There's a full-on war going in Yemen. People have been dying for years now, but we don't hear it on the news except now it's come out.
Oh.
But these people are dying, and all the weapons of war, most of the stuff they've been pulling out, and it's written there, made in England, made in America. All the stuff the Saudis are using
obviously.
are all from us, foreign purchase. So the people in Yemen are pissed off with the British and Americans. Essentially, they're calling for jihad on us because we keep selling guns to the Saudis who are killing the poor buggers.
Well, let's not forget Al-Qaeda is essentially the remnants of America's commando
The
force.
Mujahideen.
Was supposed to be fighting in
The
Iraq.
Russians, yeah, the Mujahideen who were given toys by the Americans to kick out the Russians and then decided to kick out the Americans as well. And that backfired in the long run because you piss off America, they blow your country up.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, Mordor is essentially this third world nation that's supposedly this great threat. The orcs of the Misty Mountains, cave-dwelling rednecks, essentially. There's not much there. All goblins and things are not even as good as orcs.
Well, that itself is a whole debate.
Yeah, but they're a lesser division of the group.
Yeah.
That's why they live in caves. They can't even go outside without getting dizzy and falling over. And then the Uruk-hai, who are genetically bred by Sauron, who actually have a bit of a chance of winning.
Essentially orc eugenics.
Yeah. Who actually he used orc stem cells. Just illegal research, that was the problem. It's very bad for a wizard to do that. But he, who is actually technically a bigger threat with his mongrel army that he bred, even they're not that good. A bit of sunlight and the whole lot fell over and got run over by horses and killed by trees. So how are they a great threat to the world?
Yeah.
That's my argument. How the hell is Sauron, at that point the Empire as well, how is the Empire a threat?
Like,
the Stormtroopers can't shoot straight. The Death Star it takes $100 bazillion quadrillion dollars and 100 billion men to make, shoots one planet, then gets blown up by a fighter. 3 times, technically, in a way, because in the new movie it's a bigger one, but they blow the thing up anyway. What's the point? Their ships are useless, their fighters can't do the job properly, their soldiers are incompetent and can't shoot straight. Even the First Order's guys are not much use unless they're shooting children.
Movies.
They're no threat. And Voldemort as well, 7 Horcruxes. WTF. If Voldemort was you see, I want to see, to me, Lord of the Rings, there's no great threat in the entire story. Even Morgoth wasn't that much of a threat. I mean, he nearly got eaten by his own spider, for God's sake. If it wasn't for the Balrogs hitting her and chasing her away, she probably would have eaten him. Yeah, they're not a threat. You look at the Battle of Pelennor Fields, and the Rohirrim run over. We're looking at the book and the movie for this one. The Rohirrim break through the Haradrim cavalry. Then they run over all those orcs. Then Gondor, what's his face? Aragorn pitches up with the Army of the Dead and the Dunedain, because they left that out of the movie and it fucked me off. If I ever meet Peter Jackson, I'm going to shake his hand and congratulate him for making brilliant movies, then ask him if he's been smoking crack. Because there's no Tom Bombadil, no Barrow Whites, and no Dunedain at the battle. What the fuck's wrong with you, boy? This is a half-assed, half-watered-down version of Lord of the Rings that he made. Actually, a friend of ours years ago watched the movies, and he said it was too much. It was too much for him to comprehend. And he said that to Raven and I. It's too much. There's too much crap going on, too many flags, banners, it makes no sense. We said, read the books, and we'll have a chat. He came back about 5 months later after reading, he bought the whole complete of Tolkien, the Silmarillion, he read them all, and he sat across from us and he said, Peter Jackson did a really, not a bad watered down version of all that shit I read. Because fuck me, there's like 1,000 different nations and places.
That is the problem with making a film, is you kind of have to make it marketable.
Yeah, you have to water it down. And even then it's overwhelming for people who don't know, and for those who do know, it's underwhelming. Because it's lacking.
Yeah,
for a fan, there's not enough.
For
your average person, exactly, it'd be a terrible thing to try and...
To get that balance point.
He got it in a way. In
Lord of the Rings he did. I think...
The Hobbit is trilogy, they just pushed the trilogy because it's popular.
But that was...
More marketing than himself.
And it wasn't him, it was the studio. Whenever shit's bad, even like Star Trek Enterprise, all the bad shit in Enterprise was pushed in by the studio. Berman and Braga had to fight the studio for a lot of stuff.
Well, you call it Mass Effect 3. Similar routine. They had so much so many grand concepts and big concepts for Mass Effect that were left out because marketing and the studio will push a product for Christmas. We want to sell. And then when it came out, people looked at it and went, what? It makes no sense. Yes, we know it doesn't. We had a whole idea we were working on, and then these arseholes made us sell the thing a year early.
That's the thing I hate with EA, is that whereas a lot of...
We're right off topic again.
we're related topic.
Yeah, to an extent.
But that's, to me, the thing with EA, is, especially if we go like to the 90s where EA started getting big. A lot of like ID Software, Sierra...
R.I.P.
Yeah.
But
there's the ID Software, Sierra, Bullfrog, Maxis, Westwood. Those were the big names.
They were.
And the people who founded those companies were essentially basement/garage coders that eventually got together and formed a company to make products.
Yeah.
EA is a corporation. So the guys, the big CEOs or whatever at the top are running a company. And the computer game just happens to be the product that their company produces, but they don't understand the product, they don't understand the market.
It was in an episode of the very first season of X-Files. You remember the episode with the artificial intelligence?
That's going back.
About 1993, it takes over a building. Essentially kills off people inside the building. But the guy who created the artificial intelligence, he's a bit like you, sandals and t-shirt. And he said that there are two kinds of people in the computer world. There are the suits and the scruffies. He's a scruffy. The scruffies are like you. They're in the computers. They're playing with tech, looking at things. Apple was like that, old Wozniak and them. Yeah. They were scruffies. But the guys who invested in Apple were the suits.
Yeah.
They were the guys who arrived and said, computers, there's money in that. Here's $1 million, Steve.
That's why,
make us richer.
That's why, as much as I hate Apple...
Yeah. It was still nutters. Like they got...
But the thing is, they had the right balance. Wozniak was the scruffy, and Jobs was kind of the suit.
He was
not 100%, but
he was a bit of both.
He knew how to deal with the suits.
He essentially, in a way, took the kind of role I had to take with us for 9, because you're like Wozniak. Was very, still is. He's a bit socially awkward. He's a nerd of the nerdy. He's happy being nerdy on his own.
Yeah.
He doesn't like talking to people much. He gets uncomfortable in social situations. Also, nobody's going to talk to a guy with that much facial hair. Me, on the other hand, like Steve Jobs, suit, maybe a bow tie or something, a lot more chat, a lot more shaking hands, talking to people. He's the mouth of the show.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I'm the mouth of 9, technically. You're technically the power behind the phone, because you're the one who actually knows how the hell to put these things together and edit things properly. I just fiddle with knobs. Mm-hmm. That's how it works for me. So that they had that good balance. But unfortunately, once the suits start interfering with things in just one product, then they start watering it down, which is completely off topic at this point.
But it's kind of related.
Kind of.
And that tangents are good because you get engrossed.
Yes, we do get engrossed. But as I was saying, Sauron is irrelevant, and he is no great threat. In fact, I don't think even the ring wasn't a threat as such. None of it was a threat. To me, Lord of the Rings, if it had been a true threat, at the end of Lord of the Rings, I would like to have seen Frodo as a quadriplegic, out of his head, tied to a wall in an insane asylum. I'd like to have seen Sam sitting in a nut house in a straitjacket, holding up a banana or something and talking to him.
Driven mad from...
And Aragorn, white as a sheet, and completely fuck the shit that he sought out of Mordor. And even the very presence of the legions of Mordor, there must be long-term effects. Pippin and Merry should have a stutter because of the shit they saw. Arwen should be insane, or in my opinion, if it had been done properly, the Witch King would have just skull-fucked the bitch. I would have. Well, I mean, what good was the Witch King? He got killed by a girl. 3,000 millions of years old. Can't fight. Aragorn, he can't fight. Listen, he can't even see the ring if it's in front of him. What kind of soldier is that?
One who's been dead for too long.
Exactly. It's incompetence.
Well, going back to that point that the ring isn't even a threat, actually makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it, the One Ring was essentially the ring that binded the control of all the other rings.
Yeah, most of which were lost.
Well, you had the
elves
nine,
had those.
the 9 for the men,
which the ring wraiths had.
so they were already subservient without him even having the ring. So there was no point having him for them.
Yeah.
The 7 dwarf lords, we don't even know who the fuck any of them are.
And we know that it's in somewhere in a few others. It's been mentioned in unfinished stuff and that, but it was also in the video games to an extent that some of the rings have been found. But most of the 7 dwarf rings are long gone. They've disappeared left, right, and centre.
And the 3 elven rings,
One-
Galadriel, Gandalf,
Isn't it?
I think Celeborn.
Yeah, I think her husband had one. Yes.
So, first of all, Gandalf is a demigod.
Yeah, he's actually the equivalent of Sauron, technically. He's just not allowed to walk in and smack him in the head and say, stop
Because he
it.
still follows the rules.
Yeah,
But
well, he does as
he
he's
is
told.
a godlike being. He was created
He's an angel,
by the
yes.
Maya, yeah.
Yeah, he's an angel.
Galadriel is the single most powerful of the elves.
Yeah, she's one of the few that gave Sauron the willies.
And Celeborn is also pretty high up there.
Yeah, as it goes from everything I've read, that one of them always had to be at home. So he always, like, they had to have some sort of power at wherever the hell they lived, Lothlorien or whatever,
Lothlorien.
by their sacred water, whatever the hell it was. I can't remember all the details myself. But essentially, one of them had to essentially be the battery to power the whole elven world. So Celeborn always stayed at home to keep the power, the energy flowing, while she went off and did whatever she had to do.
So at the end of the day,
So they balanced it out essentially. She did the dirty work, and he stayed at home and
so
maintained
really,
everything.
technically speaking, if Sauron got the One Ring, Celeborn and maybe Galadriel are literally the only 2 beings in the entire world susceptible to any effect from it.
And even that effect, they wouldn't have had that much. I think she was more than strong enough to actually. Well, if memory serves, when he did launch his little plan. Initially, back in the day, it was her and her husband who went and went, hang on, there's something weird with this shit. Why are these gems glowing? And why do I feel drawn to Mordor and want to kill my neighbours? They essentially spotted the trap, whereas the men went, yeah, I know it's a trap, but he promised us immortality and money. Also a shiny hat. Oh, and a black cloak. I always wanted a black cloak.
So yeah, even if he got the ring, the worst that would happen is one of those 2 would start turning, the other one would lop their head off, and the world would carry on.
Yeah, and Gandalf, he wouldn't do anything dodgy anyway. He followed the rules too much.
And Gandalf is of equal strength.
Yeah, and
so he would have resisted it.
What threat was the ring? What did it do? What did it give Sauron? Did it unlock the Death Star? What was the point? What did the ring actually provide him with?
It was the control of the other rings.
Which is irrelevant.
That's what I'm saying.
So what else does it do?
No,
does
it had no
does it
purpose.
give him legions of Balrogs? Can he respawn his orcs as they die by the million? Does it allow him to mass produce them for $1 each, 1,000 orcs?
Yeah, it's like
No, it does
cheese.
nothing. It helps him do a little psi attack on a few elves who would resist it anyway because they were older and more powerful than him.
Yeah,
So it's
he
essentially
would have gained nothing by having the
and then
ring.
he put in the kill switch for himself in the damn thing, and then he builds a mountain fortress so he can get in to make the thing and doesn't put a fucking gate on it in 3,000 years, or at least leave
Or
3,000
he puts his
orcs.
fortress in the one place that can kill him.
Yes, well, I would have done the same myself, but I would have at least sealed Mount Doom off. I would have had a 9-foot high bloody wall. Come on, hobbits, 6-foot wall. Jump out, you little fat
It's
bastard.
like you mentioned Harry Potter earlier.
Hmm.
It's like someone always said, the Horcruxes should have been coins.
Yeah.
And then Voldemort should have just randomly gone around buying stuff with those coins. Once they're in the money circulation, no one will ever find
Yeah.
them.
I would have done similar, but I would have also gone to the Muggle world, because he's supposed to be from the 1940s, Voldemort. I would have in some way gotten a bit of that Horcrux into somewhere like NASA and had the thing stuck on that shuttle on the moon that's still there. Good luck getting that, Harry Potter. I exist eternally on the fucking moon, bitch. Something simple like that, a nail in a door. Instead of having it as some dramatic item, sealed off by demons and legions and all sorts of shit and magic that doesn't actually work. And then having a snake as the last one, which was just kind of retarded. Oh, and Harry Potter was one as well.
Well, apparently, from what I've heard, not the Fantastic Beasts, but the other new one, literally has like rewritten the entire timeline.
Oh, good.
And Harry's dead.
Oh.
Everyone else is like broken and deranged.
But that's what I would like. But as I just said, that sounds cool. I'd actually read that, because that's what I would like to have seen in Lord of the Rings. I'd like to have seen Sauron was no threat because at the end of the day, as we say, the ring has no value except it can screw with a few elves. And would give him command of the 7 rings of the dwarves, but we don't know where the rings are, all the bloody dwarves. They've lost them. Yeah. And the 9 ring wraiths who have the rings of power
even 7
are
dwarf kingdoms anymore. There's only 3 left.
Yeah, and the 9 ring wraiths who have the rings
are already subservient. They don't need to be controlled.
Absolutely useless.
They're like cannons. They damage morale more than they actually affect the troops.
Yeah, that's all they do. They scare some men when they scream. But at the end of the day, they can't fight for squat. They can't come on, and they can't even find the bloody ring. They stand literally in front of Frodo going, it might be here somewhere, maybe. It could be on the other side of the planet. I don't know. And then they get on a dragon and fuck off. Incompetent. And then the orcs are absolutely useless. They die by the million. They can't do anything. What would have been good at the Siege of Pelennor Fields if to see Legolas taking on an orc in a 50-foot battle mech with nuclear weapons? That would have been a challenge. See, that's the thing. I get vexed constantly because the bad guy is not a bad guy enough for me. Mm-hmm. I want a bad guy who is a bad guy.
Exactly.
I want one who's actually, even if you defeat him, 99.9% of the planet is burned to the ground and everyone's dead.
But, I mean,
it's not a victory. It's a Pyrrhic victory against such evil.
Even in the books, the Battle of the Black Gate, they survived. They didn't win.
Yes. I know. I took the Black Gate. We might actually use that footage for this podcast, but I took the Black Gate. Unfortunately, the guy who did the mod, he couldn't get the gate to open, so it's got gates in the gates. So I had to batarang them down and then march into Mordor and then fight the orcs there. And I think at the end of that battle, we had maybe 300 men left out of the 4,000 or 5,000 I arrived with. God knows it took me forever to kill those fucking ring wraiths. I outnumbered. I eventually, for every ring wraith I killed, I think they killed about 50 of my guys each. That's proper. That place, I'll show you the video later, because I zoom out all the way back to the gate, and you literally just see bodies all the way to the Black Gate.
And that's what it was. It was literally a last stand to distract the enemy while Frodo while the commando team did their sabotage.
Yeah, and once again, shithead fell for it. Oh look, two halflings are walking around Mordor. God damn it! Hey, Aragorn's at the gate. Let me go talk to him. What? What the hell? I would have had every orc in. I would have kept the orcs in Mordor, brought catapults up, and flung rocks over the wall, going. Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't exactly the type of wall you're going to breach.
Exactly. I would have just sat there behind with arrows, firing them all over and shooting Aragorn and his little girlfriend.
Pick them out, thin the ranks as you.
And I would have had the ring wraiths sitting at Mount Doom with a legion of orcs, whose job was to stand there butt naked, and anyone who doesn't look orcish enough to be bloody beaten to death and then get the ring.
That's the thing, if that's the one place on the entire planet that can kill you,
you don't even build a door for it.
You would have a revolving guard duty there no matter what else was going on.
Yes. I have found the ring in my playthrough of my game at the moment, and I have dispatched the 41. Yes, 41. I don't have 9. I have 41 in that school. I'm sent to find them. But at the same time, I'm doubling up my guard, and I have troops stationed at Mount Doom and on all my entrances to Mordor. I've even started putting men at the back where the Haradrim live, just in case.
I mean, it's like a book that I read. Now, I can go into a whole trio about this book series, and I mentioned it before.
We shall shortly.
But the one cool thing in the story is... What was it?
Well, like, share, subscribe for part 2. Carry on.
Well,
welcome back, part 2.
Yeah, so
or something like that.
This one book that I was talking about. It's again, the book itself had a decent story, but it wasn't great. It kind of felt like it was mass-produced to get a book product out, type of thing.
Yeah.
But it had a decentish story, and in the world you had the island of the nation kind of looked like Great Britain almost. And up where Scotland would have been was the Troll territory.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was basically a huge wall of flame all across the border, from the coast to the coast.
Did the Americans write this book? Build a wall!
Possibly. But basically the Trolls could never get into the kingdom because of this huge wall. There were guards behind the wall. But the thing is, every time a troll ran through, they were so injured from the fire, it was easy for the guards to pick them off.
Pick them off, yeah.
And you went down, and you had like the free peoples. And they had the soldiers who were guarding the wall, which is why they were allowed to be free. It was like their payment. Like, you guys are in the most dangerous territory because you have to fight the trolls, so we're not going to oppress you like all of the other kingdoms we've overtaken.
Yeah.
And then a bit south from them was what used to be the capital of the Free Peoples until it had been overthrown by the Imperium, like the Empire.
Yeah.
And then a little bit down from that was sort of like desert badlands, where nobody lived except some nomadic tribes nobody cared about. And then south of that was a huge bridge over like a massive ravine, like Grand Canyon type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the other side of that bridge was the home nation of like, I'm called the Pandesians.
Mm-hmm.
And they were almost like this like Roman Empire.
Okay.
And they were the ones that had pushed up and then annexed the rest of the kingdom. Just left that one little city free because their soldiers guard the wall.
Yeah.
And they were like a real sort of tyrannical empire. So it was literally like bad guys and bad guys.
Yes.
Now, there was also this kind of order of monks type of thing. And I can't remember their name. But they...
Fremen. It's always the Fremen.
They guarded the spell that kept the fire in the wall lit.
Ah.
It was like some artifact they had that fueled the magic that kept the fire burning.
Yes.
Or some like cliche trope like that. They had 2 towers.
Huh.
One was at the major coastal city of the world, which was the tower that was the more well known of the towers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where this order of monks army, so I guess like the Jedi Knights almost. They were like these highly dedicated, uber-trained soldiers, and they lived to do their training, and they were always bettering themselves, and they were like the strongest army in the land, but they stayed at the tower and defended the tower. And maybe 1 or 2 would go on a pilgrimage to help out in some major battle here and there.
Mm.
The other tower was on the opposite coast of the island, up. You had to climb through this like glacier with this inhospitable terrain and craggy rocks and right out in this like very stormy waters and very difficult to get to. So it had a much smaller guard contingent.
Yeah.
And the thing was, nobody, even the guards guarding either tower, knew which one had the artifact in it.
Yeah.
And even then, nobody knew what the artifact was, except for maybe like the highest echelon of the order.
Yes.
And I think at the end of the books, they smashed both towers looking for the thing and didn't find it in either tower. It was actually hidden in a third place that nobody knew about.
Yeah.
So, Thingy should have had something like that going, like the place to destroy the ring.
By thingy he means Sauron.
Yes.
For those who are only catching up on this
Oh yeah,
episode.
about Sauron. She's like,
The Dark Lord thingy.
you know, why not have had it like, is it Mount Doom or is it Minas Morgul? You know, well, it was Mount Doom, but why not have had the rumor spread that it was either Minas Morgul or one of the other towers? What's it, Orthanc?
Yes.
You know, why not have it that it's one of those two? And then they don't even know which one to attack, and whichever one they attack is going to be wrong because it was actually a secret third place.
Why not have flooded the market with a fuck ton of rings?
That as well.
Or why a ring? Why not make it something better? You know, 1 pair of G-strings to rule them all. 1 pair of iron underpants. Or 1 toilet roll holder. Or some bloody redundant thing that doesn't look ringish. The bad guys always go for over-the-top stuff. Why not do a bit of your crown? Or actually your glasses you wear under your crown. Whatever. Something completely, the 1 nail in the wall buried somewhere 1,000,000 miles under Mordor. Find that fuckwit.
Well, Minas Morgul, that's a huge ass tower. That's got to have a lot of masonry and stuff in it. 1 nail in 1 door somewhere in that tower is the 1 ring.
Yes.
Is the 1 nail.
And you don't reveal yourself at all in any way, shape or form until you get the nail back.
Yeah.
Until you're actually ready to retake your
Look at
form.
the White
and
Council when the Necromancer approached. Everyone was like, no, it's not Sauron. Sauron's dead. Sauron's gone. It's just some wannabe. If he had just gone with that story and proved not to be a threat,
Yes.
until he had this Legion-esque army, and
Until he'd actually prepped for war and actually then went full on for war.
yeah,
And if he had actually used his servants well, bloody Wormtongue takes over Rohan technically and subjugates the king. My response in the movie and what have you, he's like, yes, Eomer, son of Eomer, go away, you're banned forever. I wouldn't have banned him. I would have chopped him to pieces. And gambling and all the generals and all the Rohan guys secretly having a banquet or something and killed all the guys who could have been a threat or rallied the people of Rohan against it. So when Helm's Deep finally did happen, if such an event occurred, Gandalf would arrive on his own going, I can't find any horses because all their captains are fucking dead.
Yeah.
And even then, my orcs would have had like visors.
Orcs.
No, my orcs would have had a visor over. Oh, look, the sun. Ray-Ban for genocide. Or
That's
something.
actually...
Also, when I would have taken the forest, I would have built a burning pit around Orthanc the whole time for the trees. And if the Ents give me I would have obliterated the whole lot. I wouldn't have chopped down a few trees. I would have gone in there, set fire to Fangorn, and then mined it out.
Well,
that's why I'm a bad guy, and that's why Mothman is a bad guy, because
he blew
up his own planet. He was the Empire, and he blew up his own Imperial planet. Must have lost 30 legions, but who cares? They could have been spies.
If I was Sauron, my plan would not have revolved around having the ring to be successful. I would have had this plan to... My thing would have been, Gondor is the main threat. I mean, if...
The elves and Gondor are the main threats.
But you know the elves tend to keep to themselves unless really pushed.
Yes.
So my thing would have been, and if I'd had Sauron as my servant, ally, whatever...
Servant. He was indoctrinated.
Yeah. So I would have had him send the Uruk-hai straight south, straight to Gondor. Gondor's army would have gone out to engage the Uruk-hai. I would have then immediately pushed north with all my Orc legions, sacked this and sieged and taken the city. They could have then pushed out and gone round the back and finished. There, Gondor's out of the picture. Then this allied army can push up to Lothlorien, take them out, because Rivendell wasn't big enough to have that much of an army. Lothlorien was the main elvish land. Mirkwood elves were too secretive and kept to themselves.
You would have actually just rounded them up anyway.
But you would have had time. They would have just stayed in their little castle.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have come out of the wood.
No.
So you would have had time to build up an army and push in. There. Once Mirkwood, Lothlorien and Gondor are out, you can push into Rohan, but their only strength is cavalry. And it's easy enough to counteract that. I mean, look at Bannockburn.
Yes.
And there you go.
That wasn't in Lord of the Rings, that's an actual historical battle.
Yeah.
The Battle of Bannockburn.
So when the Scottish beat the English because they fought in a swamp and the English couldn't use their heavy cavalry because they sank.
Yeah, the horses got stuck. My ancestors beat my ancestors. Well done, my ancestors.
So,
both bastards.
I mean, his whole thing was, I need the ring to win. If he had put a plan that didn't involve the ring, but he could have taken Middle-earth before the ring was even found.
If he used proper brain thinking, and used the dark, evil magics that he supposedly had access to, although all he seemed to do with it was make clouds, really ineffective in my book, I would have, not only would I have then corrupted the souls of people like Denethor, because he would have easily fallen, and the other kings, Bard, or the son of Bard, or what have you, corrupting their brains long term.
Even then, Dale wasn't... True, they were one little city. They didn't really have much of an army in terms of...
True, but if you're going to wipe everyone out, you're going to do it properly. Corrupt all the politicians all over the place, you'll do well. And then, at the same time, create bioweapons, plagues, evil, orky plagues, that end up, essentially, by the time you rock up at Minas Tirith, all you need is two guys, one to open the gate, one to put the key in, because the city's empty, because horrible plagues have pretty much exterminated all the people.
Here's another thought you just gave me. Along those lines, actually. More rings.
More rings.
I mean, why only have 9 Nazgul? Why not have the whole...
Well, why do you think I have the 41?
But why not have the entirety of Mordor forging rings and just distributing these rings into Gondor?
Christmas crackers for the children.
I mean, why
Hobbit,
only
Nazgul,
corrupt 9
elf,
people?
Elf.
Corrupt the entire town. Turn the entire town into an army of Nazgul.
Yeah, legion upon legion of black
Not only do your
Numenorians.
ranks go up, but the enemy's ranks go down at the same time. It's a double bonus.
Legion upon legion of black Numenorians. Could be very interesting. All of Gondor is Nazgul.
And it would have happened slowly, so nobody would have known what was going on because people would have just slowly gone.
And if you played it correctly, you wouldn't have used it for like the Aragorn character. You would have used it for Bob the hobo.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You do it for the people that Gandalf and them wouldn't pay much attention to.
Yeah. Start at the lower ranks like that, and then go to your merchants, and then your soldiers.
And by the time they actually realise that something dodgy's happening,
having Faramir sitting there on the throne, thinking, "Why is everyone in my town being weird?" Then they all turn into Nazgul, and well, fuck me. Now they can kill him and move on.
Yes, and again, the army of the dead. Sauron's incompetent. He didn't have a counter spell for that. It would have been great. Yeah, the Aragorn rocks up with his faggoty army and just go boom, dispel, I'm dead. Thank you, problem solved.
Yeah, I mean, you are a demigod.
Yeah, well, you're not competent, and the orcs weren't competent. I would have dug a huge pit right down the side of bloody Pelennor Fields when I arrived. I would have actually put spikes on both sides. He had the numbers, 200,000.
Then again,
I would have built spiky fence all the way around, making it like a siege within a siege routine.
Why even have a means of getting into Mount Doom?
Mm-hmm.
He was a non-corporeal being at this point. Why not have just had the orcs dig a huge trench around Mount Doom and then let it fill with lava?
Because these things, as I said, these were written, as we said in the previous podcasts, these were written for a happier, simpler time where bad guys did stupid stuff and the goodies always won. Now we're in the 21st century. I want to see the bad guys win all the time because the good guys don't deserve it. Unless they win by the end of the day, and as I said, Frodo ends up an insane quadriplegic, tied to a bed for the rest of eternity. That is the kind of victory I think they deserve. If Thingy is such a villain.
Yeah, they should have literally scraped through to win.
Yeah, they didn't.
He was that big a threat.
They pretty much, it was a cakewalk. Oh, the orcs are attacking Gondor. What do we do? Well, close the gate. Well, that's easy. Now we just wait for the horses to rock up. Hey! They've just fucked up all those orcs. Oh, look, they've sent in some elephants. Well, they've fucked up those elephants as well. Oh, look, there's some more orcs there. What do we do? Oh, look, Aragorn's arrived with some Numenorians and some ghosts. Nope, there goes the orcs. Oh, no, it's the general it's their most evil man, the Witch King of Angmar. Oh, wait, some skanky blonde just stabbed him in the head and he fucking died. Well, that was easy. Victory to us, the good guys. Bollocks. They should have arrived at Minas Tirith while there was a cave troll outside skull fucking what was left of fucking Gandalf.
Picture I saw
using Pippin or Merry, using Pippin as a contraceptive while skull fucking Gandalf. That would have been awesome.
I saw a thing the other day where someone had taken the scene where she stabs the Witch King, but they'd like dubbed over it, so he's like, "No man can kill me," and then she's like, "Did you assume my gender?"
Yeah, nice. I saw someone did a cartoon saying that no man can kill me. I'm no man. She stabs him in the head. He's just like standing there. Yeah, the debate's still out on that one. We're not really sure.
And I'm pretty sure that no man can kill me meant man the race, not man the gender.
Yes. Well, she does stab him in the book, but that sword of hers is what's a Numenorian, the Dunedain sword.
And she doesn't kill him. If I remember correctly, doesn't she stun him? She stabs him in the foot and it stuns him, which lets something else kill him.
Well, memory serves, Merry does stab him as well, but he also his little blades, those little swords, they got also Dunedain made, specifically designed to kill the Nazgul if such a time occurs. Yeah. When the Nazgul have formed enough of an actual body that they can get a proper knife in it. And by that time, by Pelennor, they actually had a more physical form, so stabby bits actually stuck in them.
Yeah.
So it's essentially what I remember is that she stabs him and he stabs him, and he gets stabbed a couple times with actual Numenorian anti-Nazgul blades, and he falls to pieces.
Yeah.
He didn't collapse on himself. If memory serves, he sort of just unraveled and disappeared into the ether.
And I think
like a spooky thing.
The Nazguls, especially when they were flying, were basically Tolkien's interpretation of German bombers from the Battle of Britain.
Yes.
So it would have been really cool in the movie if the Nazgul had like these almost SS-looking uniforms.
No, that would have been, but that's a bit too Hodorowski, I think. Also at that point,
Hodorowski's Lord of the Rings.
Frodo would have been nailing Sam all the way up, and Gollum would have been wanking all over them constantly. Produced by Penthouse, because they did amazing things with Caligula. I've never seen that much breast and that many men in my life having sex with everything.
I would watch Hodorowski's Lord of the Rings.
I would have too. Hodorowski's anything. Because it's so odd and weird, and it's offensive to 99.9% of the human race because they're too stupid to understand such weirdness. I embrace Hodorowski. That fucked up shit that man thinks of.
I'm sad he's so old.
So am
We
I.
need more of him.
Well, when he goes, there will be a new Hodorowski.
Yeah.
There will be a new one. They just need the money and the random weirdness. Start off doing movies about rape, and you can take it from there. As long as someone's singing dressed as Jesus.
You know you're dedicated to the art when you genuinely contemplate cutting your son's arm off so he can play a character you wrote.
That is very much dedication. But ultimately, Sauron was a wally and useless.
Yes.
Now I think the Sith from Star Wars are also a bunch of incompetent wallies. Theory being that the rebels won. How?
Well, the Empire.
How did the Empire take over? Raven's argument being, of course, it was the clones who won the day, and then they were replaced by, conscripted fuckwits from the Empire who can't shoot straight.
I like that.
It's a good. It does make sense, but at the same time, how did the Empire become such a threat when, let's be honest, Palpatine's not exactly that impressive. He has no awesome killer epicness,
Well,
and Vader is
as much as everybody hates the way it was depicted, he won because he knew how to play politics.
Yeah, he was a political shit stirrer.
He was able to perceive this threat. Again, he was able to point out this threat that wasn't really there, unite everybody against it, and then decree why he should be the one in charge of taking it out. He was a politician to the T.
And even that threat, he created that threat himself.
Yeah.
He got his people to make that threat.
Yeah, he just took it one step further.
Had a big war, and then when the time was right, killed everyone that could be a challenge to him, and then overthrew the galaxy. And then within 20 years, the whole thing fell apart because he spent all his money on space station battleship moons that blow
Again,
up
like
one
every
planet and do
politician.
nothing. Completely irrelevant.
I mean, look, when Alexander, the first true empire,
Alexander of
and they
Greece.
should count the Persians, but after them, Alexander the Great, when he died, his kingdom had to split up into 4 territories, each with a different ruler, because none of them had the charisma to actually lead the entire nation.
That as well, but also when they asked him on his deathbed who's getting the empire, he said it goes to the strongest, and then he probably died. So everybody looked at each other and went, "Civil War, here we go," and then they kind of destroyed his empire.
And there was a point in time when the Romans had 4 emperors.
And it was the only time where an emperor retired. An actual proper emperor. He was able to retire and grow potatoes or
Genghis
whatever.
Khan, also I think 3 or 4 of his sons had to
Wouldn't have
take
been
over the Mongol Empire.
Yeah.
That's the biggest threat to any empire, is the fact that you need that type of leader to hold it together, and very rarely does the next
I
heir
reckon
have it.
if the Reich had not gone through WWW, or if it had actually succeeded to an extent in WWW2, and Adolf had popped off, I reckon maybe within 20 years a lot of the ideas of the Nazis would have slowly faded, and within 50 years it pretty much would have become a standardized nation. Okay, a bit more conservative, but other than that it would have lost a lot of the essence. Because when Hitler dies, who takes over? Himmler? Goering? Maybe Goebbels, someone like that? But when they're dead, who'll take over? Some other SS type guy, and when he goes...
I reckon, say Germany had won the war. I reckon when Hitler died, the German Empire, or the Reich or whatever, it would have split into probably like 4 or 5 city-states. You know, like one under Goering, one under Goebbels, one under Himmler, one under Hess.
Yes. Or it could have broken into more of a subservient, where France essentially becomes the French Nazi Empire, and they have Nazi de Gaulle in charge of Nazi Frenchmen, and the Germans have all left. They've all gone back to Germany. So every single part of Europe would have been its own essential sub-Nazi dictatorship.
Yeah, they would have had their own leader, but they would have been under.
Yeah, they would have reported to Berlin once a year and said, "Yeah, they're killing loads of Jews. Okay, see you next year." And they would have carried on.
Most
and eventually that would have. Well, we do. the South Africa went republic and then went Nazi and went apartheid and ruined itself because fuckwits. But the other actual proper parts of the former empire still report to the Queen once a year. Australia and Canada and that still inform Her Majesty what's happening in the Commonwealth once a year. But other than that, they do their own business.
Yeah.
That is until the English decide to kill the Queen, replace it with a president, then blow England up because they're all so stupid at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to end up as a politician. I can feel it. I'm going back to Britain. I'm going to see two things that are going to piss me off, and I'm going to end up going into politics and forming my own extreme liberal right-wing party. Everyone has freedom as long as you follow my laws. That gay guy is gay and let him be gay, and if you don't like gay people, you will be shot. That said, though, we're not going to stop calling you faggot because I don't care if it's politically incorrect. Grow up hair, you faggot. I don't know. I can't be arsed with PC liberal bullshit world that we live in.
The thing, that could possibly be its own discussion, but
it will be. This one's going to run for the next 2 hours.
I've always felt that the problem we have with stuff like that is everyone's like, you're this side or this side, and both sides are wrong.
I completely agree. Both parties have always been the annoyance.
It's extreme this way or extreme that way. The truth is the middle ground.
The Liberals want to make the world a better place. The problem with the Liberals is they want it now. And they're not willing to accept that the most of the world doesn't want to be where they are. The Conservatives continue acting like it's in 1850.
Yeah.
They always look yesterday, they always look to last week for hope. You can't live in the past because tomorrow is coming. The Liberals, unfortunately, are living in the year 2 million and they think everyone should be exactly like that now. Also, don't offend anyone. And this human race, we're going to offend somebody. You've got to upset people.
To me, it's like the Conservatives are, things are great for me, so nothing must change.
Yes.
Because if I have to make things slightly better for you, it'll be an inconvenience to me, and I don't want that.
Yes.
The Liberals have the right idea, but like you say, it's too much pushing in the execution,
and they faff.
They want too perfect.
They want, but they also faff for reasons. I think it was George Carlin. Obviously, we're on another podcast by now, and this is completely off topic. But I think it was. We're going to discuss many things over the next few years. I think it was George Carlin who said, problem with feminist thing it has in America is you got all these women complaining about women's rights and yada yada yada, but it's always white middle class suburban women. Not once has he heard them talking about black women's problems or Latino woman or Chinese woman's problems. They don't. They complain about shit that affects them in their white suburban life. That is all. So they are liberal, but they're not truly liberal.
Yeah.
Oh, we believe that people should have freedom. What kind of people? Our kind of people. You don't want those dark skins moving across the road. They'll upset our liberal way of living.
It's like Adele has always said. Most feminists aren't feminist.
No.
They're angry misandrists who claim to be feminist as a get-out-of-jail-free card when they piss people off.
Yes. She's very right. She does know how to piss people off as well, so she knows how to argue with stupid people. But I think I don't like either side. My biggest issue with, look at the UK. As much as I love my homeland, how much of a mess it is now. England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. There's all these nationalist movements in the country. Scotland wants to be a republic, and so does Ireland and Wales. They have these ideas. Oh, republic will fix all our problems. No. I live in a republic. We have a republic above us called Zimbabwe. Has that fixed their problems? Has having a president, Robert Mugabe, fixed Zimbabwe? No, it's fucking made it worse. Having a president, we have one here in South Africa. What have we learned from having our president here? I've learned that they know how to steal billions of dollars very effectively. I've learned that much. Having a president doesn't make your nation better. Okay, it
depends on whether you have a good president or not.
Oh, exactly. Or a good prime minister or not.
And the problem is politics usually means the worst people get the job.
Exactly. That's always been the issue. But if you look at how the UK is maintained, I believe we need change in Britain, but I think Scotland going independent is a retarded notion. Why do you guys want to be independent? Oh, because Scottish people are different to English people.
I like the theory or the fantasy of the idea, but in a realistic sense, like you say, you're stronger together.
But why would Scotland want independence? Oh, because you're different to the English. Well, how? You're both Anglo-Saxon mixed people with Viking blood. We all are. We've been fucking each other for 2,000 bloody years on that island. There's no real difference between you and I. I'm Welsh Irish and you're a Scottish person. But what are the Scottish? Some kind of mad Irish tribe, / Viking / Pict. And what is a Welshman? Some sort of Saxon, Irish, Pict, Scotto hybrid Viking creature. We're all the bloody same sort of mongrel German.
Also diluted nowadays.
Yeah, but we're pretty much the same damn thing. But I like what America does where they have state law and state rule. I think Scotland needs its own independent state, as does Ireland, as does Wales. But I think north of England should have it. I think southwest England, southeast, and I think London should have its own independent rule as well. Because London, although the problem is they dictate London as in the southeast. Now
so
I like the southeast.
Each area could have its own little governor
state rules like the Americans do.
But they all fall under a single prime minister that oversees everything.
A central federal type government, which is what the Americans have.
That could actually work for them.
It would, but of course they're so stupid they don't bring this idea because I'm surrounded by morons.
I think it was Dune, but it might not have been.
Yeah.
But somewhere I remember reading, it was a sci-fi book or fantasy, but I remember reading about this one nation, and I like the idea, where they had an elected leader, and at the end of their term, they had to walk through a dark room in luminous clothing, and everyone else in the room was armed. And if they made it to the other side alive, they were then allowed a second term.
I like that. But I think if you look at back home again, we have the royal family. I like having a royal family. Oh, it's an outdated concept and a novelty. Yeah, so what? So's Christmas, but we still do that. Democracy is an outdated novelty in the world.
The problem is the Greeks came up with it. Then
they did it right, and everyone else has made a half-assed attempt.
And then America redid it badly.
Very badly. There's no such thing as we've said before. The illusion of freedom is more powerful than the reality of control.
Yeah.
But I believe the royal family needs a shake-up. I like a king and a queen and a prince and a princess. The problem is there's so many additional royals, minor royals. The Earl of Whatten, Fotten, Flitten, Flatten, who happens to be the 13th removed twice over 5 inbred cousins across of the Queen. Some
convict in America is more in line to the throne than Prince Philip is.
Yeah, and the Burger King as well. It was on QI.
Yeah.
So some kid in America who flips burgers, but he's like 36th in line to the throne.
Yeah.
Well, Philip is he's actually Greek. He's Greco-Danish / English.
But it's like they say, that's the biggest misconception with monarchy is that a spouse has a line to the throne, which they don't.
No, they don't. The heirs do, which is the children.
Which is why, if someone had worked it out, but if William and Harry both were out of the picture right now.
Yeah, if they suddenly died, then it would go to Beatrice, who's their cousin.
But there was something that 13th in line was quite close, I can't remember the exact degree. But some woman in America who's in jail for fraud is more in line to throne than most of the royal family is.
Yes, it depends on lineage and connection and all that. But like I say, we need a king and a queen and a prince and a princess. All the additional people must go away. I like what they're doing now, though. I think it was because of King George VI. His brother King Edward went and married the American divorcee Wallis Simpson, and therefore lost the throne. He was forced to abdicate. Then the king, he married the woman he loved, who was obviously the Queen Mother, that psychotic Scottish lady. I liked her. The Queen Mum had attitude, Scottish, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I remember when they were here in South Africa. I read when they were here in South Africa during the 50s, and they were speaking to some Boers, and the one Boer guy said he'll never forgive the way England invaded South Africa, and she said, yes, we feel the same way in Scotland. And they both looked at the king, and he said, well, I'm technically German. It doesn't really count. So yeah, we all know how the English do things. They hired a German prince.
That's why all the South African legions in the army back in the day, they put the Afrikaans and the Scots together because it's we're both stubborn and we both hate the English.
Yeah. Which at this point in history means we're retarded, because all we do is hate upon each other while the rest of the world is trying to kill us. And we also have a guilt complex. Being a white man these days means you've got to be guilty for it. Oh, you're white, you've got to apologize for the fact your ancestors killed everyone. I don't expect the Italians to apologise to me for invading Britain 2,000 years ago. And I sure as hell, when I go out for dinner, I don't expect a bloody Egyptian guy to have to apologise to a Hittite, assuming we can dig one up, and say, I'm sorry that my ancestors 3,500 years ago attacked you lot. It's just retarded. Tracking back all this mud and all this bullshit. Oh, we have to have guilt because of some bad thing that happened 2,000 years ago. Fuck off. No one was here 2,000 years ago that you know.
True.
None of us here. Like every time I hear those American guys bleating off, yeah, we whipped you in the revolution. I had one at some club I was at one night. I was like, I whipped you in the revolution. I said, you look very good for 350. You weren't even there. Where are you from? And he said, Louisiana. I said, you weren't even involved. You're a bloody frog. You Frenchies were sitting there on your asses for at least the first 3 years of the Revolutionary War before you joined in. And then eventually you were sold to the Americans anyway and got a smack in the head from the Americans who said, learn English or else, Frenchie. Yeah, don't come here with your over-the-top patriotic bullshit, trying to claim something that's not really yours, or digging up a problem.
For politicians.
Yeah, but it works for people because people are fucking stupid.
And that's how the politicians control us. They
don't control me. I don't vote because I don't trust any of the bastards. As Billy Connolly said, if you were in a bar and you were drunk and one of the politicians walked in and you wouldn't talk to them when drunk, why the fuck would you vote for them when sober? Although I have learned a nice word, democracy sausage. It's the word of Australia. It's Australia's word of the year. Because obviously in Australia you have to all vote by law. So they have barbecues at the voting stations now. So everyone gets a democracy sausage. So it's like a hot dog. Everyone has a democracy sausage.
Well, what I tend to just vote for whoever the competition is, just to annoy the winning party.
That's why your ancestors were those rounded up by the Nazis for voting commie and shot. You would have.
They want to turn us on each other. I'll do it back to them.
It makes sense.
If you're going to be in charge, I'll make sure there's a lot of people questioning every decision you make.
But I think we need an overhaul of all the systems. The United Nations, I think, has officially proven its League of Nations ability. Because the League of Nations was founded after World War I to stop World War II.
Yes.
It failed miserably.
Yes.
The United Nations is now this great organisation supposed to fix the problems in the world.
The world's worst.
Aleppo is on fire. Millions of people have died. The Middle East is burning.
The last few are going to die of pretty much being executed by Turkey.
The East Aleppo is, by now I'm sure it's all over. It was a ceasefire this week.
The day before yesterday.
I watched the news.
The day before yesterday, pretty much everyone in Aleppo was sending their goodbye messages because the death squads were on their way in.
Yeah, East Aleppo. It's surrounded. There was a ceasefire agreed by international groups, and everyone held hands and did the hippie thing and went, "We've made peace in Aleppo." And of course, the death squads moved in, as you said. And I was watching on the news this morning, guy running down the road on Skype, filming it on his phone, and all you can hear is machine gun fire all over the bloody place. Fucking hell on earth! And the United Nations is supposed to be the guys who fix this shit.
And then,
what have they done? The World Health Organization, I will say, you're good. But you should actually break from the UN and declare yourself an independent empire.
And then you had everyone in the UK saying, somebody go rescue all the people in Aleppo. Just don't bring them here afterwards.
Yes. Well, in a way I agree with that. Because the problem is once you've got all these bloody people, what do you do with them? What do you do with all these millions of displaced people? Look at Britain. Every year, hundreds of old people die because it's too cold and they can't afford heating. There are food banks in England, Wales, Scotland and Ireland providing cheap food for poor people. There's hundreds of food banks. We're a first world nation where we've got food banks. We've got starving children in our homelands. And what? Now we're supposed to take in a couple million foreign people. And who's going to pay for them? We can't even feed our own people. Who the hell are we supposed to feed these foreign people? The Americans could easily feed them, but the Americans won't. They'll just build walls everywhere. No, more than likely Trump will build this fucking wall and they'll declare it. And it'll be great, and he'll turn around and he'll realise he's standing in fucking Mexico. And they'll all be standing behind him going, "Hey, puta!" And, and he'll knock on the gate and say, "I want to come back in that side." And the guards, being typically American, will go, "You got a passport?" "Oh, shit, it's on the other side of the wall. Can you get it for me?" "I gotta have a passport." And then they'll probably just shoot him.
I pay to watch that.
No, but that's the kind of stupidity I can see. When they did that with Fort Blunder, I mean, they crossed, I think it was in the Great Lakes. They crossed over and they built this great big fort to keep an eye on the British and Canadians, and they had it built in that, and the Canadian guy came riding along going, "What the hell are you doing?" "We're building a fort to keep you guys out. You realise you're in Canada." "What?" You got lost in the fog. America's over that side, so they built this massive defense fort in Canada instead of back in the American side. So they called it Fort Blunder because they crossed the border the wrong way.
There's that one town on the border of America and Canada, and the border runs through the middle of the town.
Yes.
And they had just left it open because nobody cared. And then all of a sudden, some like foreign policy law came into effect, and they were like, "Oh shit, we can't do this. It's illegal."
Yeah.
So they just built a wall down the middle of the town. The only place where people who live across the road from each other can even go talk to each other is the library, because it's the only open communal zone.
Yeah, that's absolutely mad. Human race is so stupid all the time.
Killing each other over imaginary lines.
And imaginary friends.
Yes.
And all sorts of other fake crap. And money, which is also a fake thing, doesn't really exist in reality. It's just something we made up. And we're what, trillions and trillions in debt to the lizard people. Because who else do we have this debt to?
Yeah.
Well, maybe Rothschild.
It's the stupidest, bordering on conspiracy theory, yes, but it's the stupidest thing that it costs more to make money than the money's worth.
Yes. The world is run by idiots. And the people who could fix the world are the ones who don't ever have a chance, because we don't sound stupid.
Yeah. Let's make $90, but it'll cost us $100 to do it.
Yeah.
So here's your $90, but you owe us $100 back.
Yeah.
Where are you going to get the extra 10 from? Okay, give me another 10. Okay, but it'll cost you 20.
Yeah, we'll just magic it up somewhere. We'll just ask the Federal Reserve to just make some more money, magic it out of space. And that's why America's up to its arse in debt. But America as well. There's a great example of a country that had it all and pissed on it, threw it away.
Yeah.
60% of... We have American friends and we love you dearly, but your country's full of fuckwits. 60% of you, from what I've read online, are living paycheck to paycheck. We don't have paychecks in real countries. We get our money directly put in our bank accounts. But they have paychecks. But they're 60% from paycheck to paycheck. They can't afford to actually maintain a proper life.
If you have $10 in your wallet and no debt, you are richer than 25% of America.
It's good to know I'm richer than most of America. Ha ha! Victory to me. But that's insane because they constantly bleat on the wealthiest, most powerful, most blah 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 blah
40% of the people
in blah 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 history of the blah blah fucking world. That's all they ever bleat on about is how great they are. Yet they're not actually that great. Most of them can't afford food. Their education's a joke. They have no standards, no commitment. They vote for idiots.
Their medical bills are triple what the rest of the world says.
Their medical bills are insane. They vote for nut jobs. They're run by rednecks. The whole place is a joke. They have, they've got democracy, the greatest democracy. Yes, actually, again, in a social situation, and an American guy said, on the 4th of July, he said a salute to the greatest democracy on earth. And I think it was Raven who shouted to New Zealand. And they're like, what? Oh, they've got more freedoms than you guys do. And then I said to the Netherlands, and someone else said to Germany. They have a bigger Bill of Rights than you. In fact, every other democracy on earth has more democracy than America. So, ha ha ha, once again. Your democracy is not that democratic. Also, you're run by lobbyists. That should be illegal.
Let's not forget the whole electoral college.
Which also makes no sense. But the French have started that now. Whatever the Americans do, we all have to do.
It was like, I remember, I don't know if this is one of the surviving or one of the ones we lost, but one of our previous podcasts we discussed the very abstract zoning system they have.
We lost that one.
Okay, so recap for the new people. In America, they have their whole where the zone votes, and then that each zone's vote allocates together to become the town's vote.
Yeah, you explain this to them. I'm leaving the room.
He's running away.
Thank God.
So I don't know, I could be slightly off because I don't live in America, but it's like each town is broken up into zones when they vote. And then the entire vote of that zone will count up to a winner. And then that zone puts in like a vote for that winner. And then all of the zones in the town are added up, and then that town puts in one vote for the winner again. And the zones have no logical layout. It's just random chunks here and there. So it's like literally predefined who's going to win based on how the zones are laid out. And it goes back to the thing that America and France are the only two nations
That's
that...
a completely insane idea.
Yes. And America and France are the only two nations that actually follow a system like that. At least to that degree. And yeah, so that's the point I was basically making, is that France and America have really weird governmental systems. And so now I must fill more time while I wait for Shadow to get back. So, or I'll just wait for Shadow to get back. And you return.
Mother made those. I've got a whole pile in the fridge.
There's like 2 minutes you'll just have to cut out when you render it because I ran out of stuff to say.
No, we won't. We'll just leave it blank and people can watch the action scene for 2 minutes without having to listen to our stupidity. But, yeah, you were talking about how everything's weird in America. This place ain't much better. No country.
But I was saying that weird abstract concept of randomly laid out zones that essentially predefine who's going to win the vote, rather than actually having a logical breakdown of this neighborhood. America and France are the only two nations that follow that pattern.
Bottom line, they're all insane. Right, this is the end of this podcast session.